Hi class. I'm going to catch you up on some things that I should have posted last week, so I apologize for that. Let's talk fashion advertising. This is going to deal a bit with the promotional mix, so I'll run through this as quickly as I can. The components of your plan, as we know, is going through all of this. If you're looking at the overall marketing, you've got the product itself, where you've done some work on what the product is, you've identified kind of the differences and why your particular brand is unique. You've done research for consumers, you can do research on competition, you build a strategy based on what you're messaging about the product, meaning basically the designer and the brand, and the research. You build your strategy, you build an advertising tactic, you look at the branding tactics, which are all part of this, as well as the internal channels that you would use. So let's walk through a little bit about advertising. The marketing ideas this is the fashion graphic. You're going to see a lot of links in here, so I'm going to actually send you this in PDF form too so you can see the links. But the marketing ideas must be remarkable. Here's the hard part about fashion, is it's all about, of course, the look, the feel, the aspirational side of it. So the money that has to be spent on photography, on the wow factor, on providing some truly extraordinary looks that express your brand is really critical. This particular link will show you quite a few of the pretty dynamic campaigns. Now, we all know what you see on the runway, you rarely see actually in retail. You might see some version of it, and some runway shows are becoming a little less flamboyant and a little bit more down to earth. But for the most part, runway is all about image. So looking at a plan, when you're setting your objectives for advertising, you take everything you've researched so far to come up with overall marketing objectives. Marketing objectives can be things like enhance the brand to reach a broader audience, expand our market reach within the audience base, reach additional retailers in this particular category. Those are specific kinds of objectives that are very marketing oriented and allow you to think about what then would be the next steps to achieve that. So determine media platforms. This is when I say platforms, you're talking about, do we go on Facebook? Do we do print advertising in magazines? Do we do digital marketing? Where are we going to place our ads or our promotional elements that will allow us to reach our targets? And to do that, you need to understand where your targets are getting their information. Then you determine your messaging. I don't know that these are necessarily 1, 2, 3, but then you determine your messaging. This is for reacting to both all the research you've done about your brand, but then also understanding as you are going to these different platforms, you might look at different messaging. That's even true in social media. What you say on Facebook, given the audience of Facebook versus that of Instagram, could be very different. They're still going to, no matter what your messaging is, it's still going to represent your brand, but it will vary through the various platforms. Part of that has to do just with the whole thing. If you're going to do a print ad, a stagnant print ad, it needs to have a certain style, visual, and messaging. Whereas if you do a rich media graphic digital ad that moves, you may have a whole different approach. So that's what this all is about. Then decide who will develop the campaign. In my larger class, 277, I teach you how to write a creative brief. And a creative brief or a design brief are things that are used in advertising agencies to help designers better understand what you should expect. So this is the phase when you would do that, and then set the budget and the time frame. So objectives and creative briefs are really, really important. So again, looking at the planning section, look at Prada. So I'm going to click into this for a second here. I'm going to get out of here so I can get this. I'm hoping I can open it. I don't think I can open it. So we're gonna have to go look at this, because what it did is it shows the in style fashion. It talks about the advertising campaign for Prada. So with diversity as well, this is a big deal we're talking about this year. And diversity and the idea of doing social media type campaigns are really, really important. They're becoming more important all the time. So targeting diversity is critical in visually how you represent your brand, as well as how the channels you look for, the people you're targeting, and so forth. In the Fashion Spot article you see here, it will explain that a little bit further, but basically it shows the diversity and has a bit of a report from spring 2017 on ad campaigns, and how what we used to see in fashion, all the beautiful white models, super skinny and super thin, is not where we are today for most brands. It's a mix of ethnicities, it's a mix of size, and there's just a much broader diversity, which is terrific, actually. The celebrity fashion. This is a big deal in advertising for fashion. It's especially important in beauty, especially with perfumes. I don't know what it is with perfumes. There just doesn't seem to be one that's actually ever advertised that isn't a, done with a celebrity. So, because it's all aspirational, there's really no, it's a scent, it smells good, it's all of that, and it's got a pretty bottle and all of those things, but it's basically just aspirational. So the celebrity connection to the brand, if that celebrity could represent the brand the way you would really like to see it, is a key way to instantly tell people who you are and what you stand for because of your connection. Now, the challenges of that is if a celebrity goes awry, they do something bad, they all of a sudden fall out of favor, or they don't represent your brand well, that's going to be something that's very difficult to recover from. So choosing your platforms. When you're looking at your platforms to go, your various channels, the target audience is your number one thing. Whoever you are targeting, looking at where do they get their information. You're looking at number two, reach, and how many people are you likely to expose. So you may want to spend a great deal of time on your Instagram account and you only have 1,000 followers. Your thing isn't going to necessarily be to just populate the Instagram account, but is to promote it enough to be able to get 10,000, 15,000, 30,000 followers. So enough that your work really reaches a larger audience. When you're thinking about advertising or social media campaigns or any of these things, frequency is really important. How often are you going to be on these platforms? How often are you going to be communicating? How often would you advertise? And all of that with the audience, the reach, and the frequency are all really critical. It's all part of when you take other classes about media buying or the discussion of media buying. The media buyer will always ask these questions. And the impact. Which media do you think is going to have the greatest impact? Today we know that fashion is driven by Instagram. We know that that's a huge opportunity. Instagram it's designed for it as a photographic platform, and it also has the selling capability, it has advertising capabilities, it has everything to really build the image. So we know that that's one of the platforms that has the greatest impact. And then you have to look at cost. Obviously, if you're going to do print advertising in Vogue, that could be your whole budget. I mean, a page in Vogue could be $200,000. So for 1 month. So these are the kinds of things you have to look at to see if you're a young fledgling brand, you're going to be looking at digital and social media type of platforms. You're not going to be able to afford a high profile celebrity, but you could get to the influencers, the people who are following fashion. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more in another lesson. So Prada, I wanted you to take a look at. So please explore Prada a bit. This is one that when you look at their website and you go through what they do have really a pretty incredible platform. And they have, so I want to be able to walk through it. With their advertising, it basically, Prada today has taken on a whole different image than what they used to be. And this is the thing that's really interesting about brands. They evolve. They evolve a lot. If you look at, you look at some of them, like you go to Burberry. Burberry started off as raincoats for sailors 150 years ago. They have moved throughout the course of history to the point where the Burberry jacket in the 1980s was, their raincoat with the internal flap, 70s and 80s was affordable. You know, if you had a Burberry raincoat with the internal plaid and you knew what it was, and it was a very popular thing. It then moved and became more expensive, and all of a sudden it became this amazing brand. Same with Prada. So take a look at some of these things, because as you go through these links, I want you to see the different things. Instagram, they do an amazing job with Instagram. This is an older picture I took a bit ago, but look at, they have 13.7 million followers on Instagram. So it has grown and changed. Their Facebook, again, is another one that's very, very strong with 6 million people following. So that's where you've got the impact. So you as a young designer brand that you're promoting will not have this level of impact. But as a marketing objective, one of your marketing objectives could sincerely be just to grow your Instagram account through innovation and creativity, and trying to get more influencers to talk about you so that people visit you on Instagram. Those are ways to help build these accounts. Zara is another one that's gone through a number of transformations, and I'd like you to take a look at the Zara website. They speak to their new collections. They do a beautiful job as a retailer. This is a manufacturer retailer like Eddie Bauer and H&M, those kinds of places. But Zara has changed as well, and some people say not for the better, because they have gotten in recent years some tough criticisms about the loss of quality as they have expanded worldwide. But it is one of the most remarkable brands on the planet, because of the fact that they have grown so fast and been so well accepted, and they're all over the world. Their Facebook and other social media pages are amazing. Look at 22.9 million, and this was probably a year ago when I made this slide. So it's grown, I'm sure, in a huge way. Zara also does a really good job of getting a lot of publicity. So we'll talk a bit more about how to get press, but publicity is a big deal for fashion brands. That's why, one of the reasons they do fashion shows. It's one of the reasons why they'll do showrooms where they invite media in to see the line. It's all to get the media familiar with the brand, so they use the brand in their their editorial pages of their magazine, or within the influencers brand, and their blog and online magazine. So that's all considered when you're talking about earned and unearned media, if you've heard that before. The earned media is public relations. Unearned means you paid for it. It's advertising, it's a sales promotion, it's something where you have directed it and paid for it. Earned media are the good reviews you get on social media, on the press release, the articles you get in magazines, the product placement in magazines, the articles from influencers promoting your brand. Those are all earned media. Okay, so this is also just showing you just some of the press they get. And here, take a look at this last slide. This is the one of the best of 2017. It's still very relevant, and I'd like you to go through that. So looking at this, I'm going to get off of this right now and show that in the modules, I wanted to see where we are right now. And I've added a couple of things to the modules that I'd like you to take a look at. For this week, I added marketing, fashion marketing on social media. I'd like you to take a look at that. And then I'm adding this one here to as I will be adding public relations in fashion. The lecture you're seeing today will be added into this module. Next week I will have PR coming, and then you've got your team presentations coming. So if any of you have questions, please contact me, because we do have office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays for your teams to come on and talk. So hope that helped, and let's take a look at those websites that I asked you to look at, and please join any office hours or email me with any questions.